Now, broadcasting from behind enemy lines, deep in the trenches of the Patriot resistance, leading the charge in the battle for liberty, this is the Jayson Veley Program.
Hello, my friends. Jayson Veley here. This is the Jayson Veley Program. I want to thank you very much for listening. The email address, should you want to get in touch with us, the JaysonVeleyProgram@gmail.com. The JaysonVeleyProgram@gmail.com. We also have a call-in line if you want to leave a voicemail. 860-266-2852. 860-266-2852. I received a comment yesterday, speaking of the call-in line. The comment was, it rang a few times when I tried to call in, and then a British automated voice picked up. Did I have the right number? The answer would be yes. If it rings a few times and then there's an automated British voice that has the like a recording that says please leave a message, that's the correct number. I apologize. There's, for some reason, Skype doesn't have a way for me to create my own voicemail message. I don't know why. Apparently they used to have that feature, but they took it away. So now we have this automated British voice. So call that number. You hear the British lady, then you're good to go. Go ahead and record your message. All right. So I made the mistake earlier today, folks, of watching Joe Biden's joke of a press conference. And when I say joke, I mean joke. This was, by the way, 64 days after he first became president, after he was sworn in, which is the longest wait for a press conference since Warren Harding in 1921. About 100 years. Almost exactly 100 years. The longest wait since Warren Harding in 1921, 64 days. Biden's 15 most recent predecessors, so the 15 presidents that came before him, all held a press conference within at least the first 33 days. Biden waits 64, almost double that. Interesting, huh, folks? Well, let's talk about that for just a quick minute. We're going to get into some audio clips and really try to digest this, but why do you think that is? Why do you think that Biden waited so long to deliver a press conference? What's going on here? You know, folks, I think what's going on here is the strategy that the Biden administration has in place. I honestly think that they're taking a realistic look at Joe Biden, factoring in the fact that the man isn't as mentally astute as he maybe used to be. Look, he was always an idiot, but now he's just rambling on. He sounds like a mental patient. I think that they are taking that into account and have reached the conclusion that when it comes to Joe Biden, the less exposure this man has to the media and the public, the better. I think that's their strategy. I think that's why they waited 64 days before holding his first press conference. I just think that's their strategy. And that's very telling. That's very telling. You know, I was watching, as I said, I sat down, I watched the press conference today. I not from the very beginning, but I tuned in I think it was about 10 minutes in. And the man just seemed very disorganized. He seemed tired and even confused at some points. I believe it was I think an NBC news anchor even admitted just shortly after the press conference that Biden seemed tired. And he did. He seemed worn out. At certain points, he would just lose his train of thought and give up on his thought and then move on to a second one, just mid-thought. It was a little tough to watch at some points. I'm not going to lie. And I bring this up because I think at this point, after hearing that press conference, I think it's a very fair question to ask about Joe Biden's mental health. I think it's very fair at this point to ask, is Joe Biden okay mentally? I'm not even saying that to be insulting. I really, truly mean no offense. I mean, is he okay? Is he mentally fit to be president? I understand that the liberals use this line over and over and over again on Donald Trump, and it's not like I'm trying to sit here as some kind of form of retaliation. Hi, you did that to our president. Now I'm saying this about yours. That's not the case. Their claims that Donald Trump wasn't mentally fit were outlandish, ridiculous. Look, Donald Trump was unconventional, but he was absolutely mentally there. He wasn't disorganized. He didn't seem tired like Joe Biden does. Joe Biden does seem tired. He seems confused. He seems mentally, even mentally incapable at some points. So again, I think it's very fair that we Republicans start inquiring about Joe Biden's mental health. Because look, if you're the president of the United States, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of whether or not you're a Democrat or a Republican, you have to be in good mental health to lead this country. God forbid something terrible happens, like a big terrorist attack or another 9/11 or something tragic that requires quick, effective leadership decisions. And if you have a man in charge who's incapable of doing that because of some kind of mental health problem, that's not good. That's a serious issue. That's a big risk. I'm not even suggesting that, it could be because of age. It very well could be because of his age. Joe Biden is 78? He's getting up there. I understand this is what happens as you get older. But that shouldn't stop us from talking about it. The man's still president of the United States. I don't care if he was 95, I would still expect him to be organized and mentally fit when he's delivering press conferences and so on and so forth. I'd still expect that of him because he's the commander-in-chief. So anyway, I just wanted to raise that point. I thought that was pretty shocking. Pretty shocking when I watched him today, particularly in the second half of the press conference. The first half was okay in terms of his mental abilities, in terms of the flow, in terms of how he sounded. But then towards the second half of it, it rapidly declined. And he started getting disorganized and just didn't sound great. But anyway, let's get into some audio clips from today's press conference. Now, as far as content is concerned from this press conference, again, it was a joke. Lie after lie after lie. Biden trying to pass the buck, put the blame on Donald Trump. He must have brought up Donald Trump, at least 5 or 6 times. Donald Trump lives rent-free, as we all know, in Joe Biden's head. It was a mess. It was a complete mess. So let's go to cut 1 here. Joe Biden was asked about the southern border, his thoughts on that, and Joe Biden, of course, started right away with shots at Donald Trump. Take a listen.
Okay. How about Yamiche? Thanks so much, Mr. President. You've said over and over again that immigrants shouldn't come to this country right now. This isn't the time to come. That message is not being received. Instead, the perception of you that got you elected as a moral, decent man is the reason why a lot of immigrants are coming to this country and entrusting you with unaccompanied minors. How do you resolve that tension? And how are you choosing which families can stay and which can go, given the fact that even though with Title 42, there are some families that are staying? And is there a timeline for when we won't be seeing these overcrowded facilities run by CPB when it
There's
comes to
a lot of
minors?
families staying, by the way.
Well, look, I guess I should be flattered. People are coming because I'm the nice guy. That's the reason why it's happening. That I'm a decent man, or however it's phrased. That's why they're coming, because Biden's a good guy. Truth of the matter is, nothing has changed. As many people came, 28%.
No, actually, a lot has changed. To be honest, I don't know where that comes from. Nothing has changed. Yeah, a lot has changed. You have completely flipped Donald Trump's immigration policy upside down. You've completely destroyed it. So yeah, a lot has changed, and now we're seeing the consequences. Keep listening.
Increase in children to the border in my administration, 31% in the last year in 2019 before the pandemic in the Trump administration. It happens every single solitary year.
Now let me stop. Because I researched this what he's saying here is he's making the argument that in May of 2019, when Donald Trump was still president, there was a bigger surge of migrants to the southern border than there is now. And he's right. As a matter of fact, he's right. The issue I have is how Biden is responding to it. You look at the differences between how Biden is responding compared to how Donald Trump responded, it's night and day. It's night and day. The first way is nonsensical. The second way, Donald Trump's way, made sense. So that's the issue that I have. He's right, it turns out. This is kind of a common thing where about once a year, I mean, the levels fluctuate, but migrants rushing to the border has happened in years past. It's happened in years past. That doesn't change the fact, however, that A, Joe Biden is responding to the situation terribly, and B, Joe Biden, through his various policies and so on and so forth, yes, is essentially inviting them here. Those two facts are constant. You can't say the same for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's policies didn't invite them here. They weren't, attractive to migrants. But they still came. They still tried to get in, of course, in spite of Donald Trump's tough immigration policies. With Biden, it's basically, come on in. That's the problem that I have. So anyway, keep listening.
There is a significant increase in the number of people coming to the border in the winter months of January, February, March. It happens every year. In addition to that, there is a...
But you're not helping. That's the point.
By the way, does anybody suggest that there was a 31% increase under Trump because he was a nice guy?
Trump did everything in his power to deter these people. You are not. You're doing the complete opposite.
He's doing good things at the border. That's not the reason they're coming. The reason they're coming is that it's the time they can travel with the least likelihood of dying on the way because
they are calling you the migrant president. They are waving Joe Biden flags. There have been reports of young children saying that my parents sent me to the border because I hear that Joe Biden isn't going to turn us away. That's what's happening. You can try all you want to deflect, to not take responsibility, but you are responsible. How do I know? I see it with my own eyes. I read the reports. Keep listening.
Number one. Number two, they're coming because of the circumstances in country. In country.
So it has nothing to do with your
deal
policies,
with this problem, and I started to deal with it back when I was United States Senator, Vice President.
It's
putting
so
together
dishonest.
A bipartisan plan of over $700 million to do with the root causes of why people are leaving. What did Trump do? He eliminated that funding. He didn't use it.
Okay, so Donald Trump didn't want to know why people were leaving, or he didn't really care, or he didn't think it was a priority. Big deal. Big deal. The fact of the matter is, unless they're legitimate asylum seekers, and we have a process for those individuals, their country's problems are not our problems. End of story. End of story. We can't, as much as we would love to be able to do it, we cannot be, the world's caregivers here. We have to look out for our own people. Donald Trump understood that, and his policies regarding immigration reflected that. Joe Biden, not the case. So then he was asked by another reporter if he takes responsibility for what's going on at the southern border, and whether or not Joe Biden thinks that he ended a lot of Trump's immigration policies too quickly, leading to chaos. Listen to what he said.
You bear responsibility for everything that's happening at the border now. I hear you talking a lot about the past administration. You decided to roll back some of those policies. Did you move too quickly to roll back
what? I'm sorry?
Policies. Did you move too quickly to roll back some of the executive orders of your predecessor?
First of all the policies are underway. We're not helping at all.
So he's not. Yes, they were, by the way. Yes, they were. Under Donald Trump, he kept illegal border crossings below 1,000 a day. Under Biden, an average of 6,000 plus a day. Don't tell me that they weren't working. They absolutely were. Donald Trump was doing everything in his power to cut down on illegal immigration. Keep listening.
Not slow up the amount of immigration.
He's not going to answer the question, by the way.
There's many people coming. And rolling back the policies of separating children from their mothers, I make no apology for that. Rolling back the policies of remain in Mexico, sitting on the edge of the Rio Grande in a muddy circumstance with not enough to eat, I make no apologies for that. I make no apologies for ending programs that did not exist before Trump became president, that have an incredibly negative impact on the law, international law, as well as on human dignity. Yep. And so I make no apologies for that.
No apologies for that. So we didn't answer the question. It was very clear. Do you take any responsibility? And he wanted to talk about Donald Trump. Okay. What else, folks? What else? Oh, he was asked about Republicans trying to suppress the vote. Immigration was a hot topic during this press conference, but it wasn't the only topic. It was also asked about voting. China came up at one point. Gun control came up at one point. But anyway, let me play this audio clip. Biden being asked by some far-left partisan reporter who calls herself a journalist, asking about Republicans trying to suppress the vote.
I want to go back to voting rights. And as Yamiche mentioned, Republican legislatures across the country are working to pass bills that would restrict voting, particularly Democrats fear impacting minority voters and young voters, the very people who helped to get you.
The idea that Republicans are got together and are involved in an effort right now to suppress minority votes to prevent these individuals from voting is absurd. It's absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous. But the liberals came up with that narrative and now they're running with it. Why? Because they want to pass radical bills like H.R. 1, which will essentially legalize voter fraud for years to come. Keep listening.
Elected in November. Are you worried that if you don't manage to pass voting rights legislation, that your party is going to lose seats and possibly lose control of the House and the Senate in 2022?
What I'm worried about is how un-American.
All right, now here we go.
initiative
It's
is.
un-American. And notice what they say. Voting rights legislation. Democrats, don't you know they're just trying to expand voting rights? No, they're not, folks. No, they're not. Do you honestly believe that? What they're trying to do is invite fraud. They're trying to embrace fraud. They're trying to collapse the system. They're trying to make a repeat of the 2020 election over and over and over again. Republicans believe in voting rights. Of course we do. Of course we do. But there needs to be laws and regulations so that we know who's voting, so that we know everyone who's taking part in our election, they're here legally, they don't have a criminal record, they're not felons. There's certain precautions that we need to take. Liberals don't believe in that. But they try to twist it, like they do with everything else.
It's sick.
It's sick,
It's
yeah.
sick.
You're sick.
Deciding in some states that you cannot bring water to people standing
God
in line,
forbid.
waiting to vote. Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when working people are just getting off work.
Yeah, who cares? And you know what? I'll add this. The state legislatures, according to the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, the state legislatures have the right to determine how they want to elect electors. The state legislatures, not the federal government, not some nitwit named Joe Biden, the states. I know Joe Biden and the left don't believe in states' rights and the 10th Amendment. I got all that. But they're really putting it on display here. Keep listening.
Deciding that there will be no absentee ballots under the most rigid circumstances. It's all designed.
Who
and I'm
said
gonna
that,
spend
by the
my
way?
time doing three things.
No absentee ballots?
One, trying to figure out how to pass the legislation passed by the House, number one. Number two, educating the American public. The Republican voters I know find this despicable.
At certain points, it got
Republican
randomly
voters.
loud.
The folks out in
Like now.
outside this White House. I'm not talking about the elected officials. I'm talking about voters. Voters. And so I'm convinced that we'll be able to stop this because it is the most...
I'm convinced that you're a big dummy. What do you think of that? I'll be right back.
This is the Jayson Veley Program.
Conservatives. How many times have you been called a racist by someone on the left? What about sexist, bigoted, homophobic, xenophobic, right-wing radical extremist? These are all buzzwords that liberals use as a means of labeling conservatives as something that they're not. And let me tell you something, I, like most of you, am getting pretty damn sick of it. That's why I started my own conservative comedy series, Living with a Liberal. Hosted on the popular video sharing app TikTok, Living with a Liberal features two fictional characters, played by yours truly, whose political differences could not be more obvious. It's a comedic take on the modern-day liberal Democrat, because if they can brand us as racists and bigots, we can brand them as triggered, oversensitive snowflakes. Check out Living with a Liberal today on TikTok. Just search Jayson Veley and you'll be taken right to my homepage. I have over 100 episodes on there, so you won't be short on content anytime soon. Enjoy. Are you a pissed off liberal that wants to give me a piece of your mind? Or maybe you're a conservative that simply has a question or comment. Either way, you should know that there's a few different ways you can reach me. Feel free to send me an email at thejaysonveleyprogram@gmail.com. Or if you prefer, you can also call the show number and leave me a voicemail. 860-266-2852. Be sure to provide your name and where you're writing or calling from. Thanks a lot. I look forward to hearing from you. Well, of course, the mainstream media, these fake news reporters, are going to be much more friendly to Joe Biden than they were to Donald Trump. You notice that right off the bat. Joe Biden got some softball questions during today's press conference. Like this real tough one. Mr. President, are you going to run again in 2024? Yeah, that's a real toughie. Let's see, we have the audio. Take a listen.
Have you decided whether you are going to run for re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a re-election campaign yet, as your predecessor had by
Softball!
This time.
My predecessor needed to.
Can you say needed to 5 times fast, Joe Biden? Needed to. Come on, try it.
My predecessor. Oh, God, I miss him.
Have you?
You miss him, huh? Well, be careful what you wish for.
Yes, my plan is to run for re-election. That's my expectation.
And then on one other note, on bipartisanship, your old friend, Mitch McConnell, says you have only spoken to each other once since you took office, and that you have moved far.
By the way, here's another softball question.
Far left since taking office. Do you see it the same way he does? Have you rejected bipartisanship?
No, I haven't.
Now, what's Joe Biden going to say to that? Yes, I have moved far left. I agree with Mitch McConnell. These are questions that are teed up by the liberal media to prop Joe Biden up. That's all they do. Prop the guy up.
At all. I've been meeting. When's the last time a president invited the opposite party down at least a half a dozen times to talk about issues, everything from how we work? We're working with a group of 20 members of the Senate right now and House on how we reestablish our ability to make computer chips and how we get ahead of the game, how we can work together. We're working together on a bunch of things. But look, I know Mitch well. Mitch knows me well. I would expect Mitch to say exactly what he said. But this is a matter of making sure that I would like elected Republican support. But what I know I have now is I have electoral support from Republican voters.
Now, I don't really know what he's talking about there. He has support from Republican voters. Maybe he's referring to individuals who call themselves Republicans but are anything but. Because let's face it, if you're a Republican, quote unquote, and you voted for this man, Joe Biden, you're not a Republican. You're definitely not a conservative. So I don't know what he's talking about. You know, I have Republican electoral support. I don't know what he means. There are millions upon millions of people in this country who stand strongly opposed to what this man, Joe Biden, plans to do to this country and is currently doing to this country. That's a fact. You can stick your head in the sand, Joe, and ignore it, but that's what's going on. Don't try to act like, you're this bipartisan president and everybody loves you. It's not the case. There are millions of us who are going to be fighting you tooth and nail for the next 4 years. So get ready. All right. Let's switch topics, shall we? Let's move on from Joe Biden, that joke of a press conference. Because, ladies and gentlemen, another radical has been confirmed to Joe Biden's cabinet. Another radical. Rachel Levine has been confirmed by the Senate as Assistant Health Secretary. Which, yeah. And by the way, this individual happens to be the first transgender federal official confirmed by the Senate. So she is really a he. Can we all be honest here? Can we just, skip over the political correct bullcrap and call it what it is? Okay? Rachel Levine. Pretty radical. Pretty radical. I'll get to that in just a minute. But you should know that Chuck Schumer was out there praising the fact, gushing over the fact that the Senate confirmed Rachel Levine because it's, quote, a milestone for the American LGBTQ community. Right. Everything's a milestone nowadays. Nothing's based on merit. Nothing's based on work ethic. No, it's just milestones. We need the first women in this position, and we need the first gay in this position, and we need transgenders here. It's all identity politics. Screw work ethic, screw qualifications. No. The liberals focus on identity politics. So this Rachel Levine, folks, I don't know if you guys heard, but when he was going through the confirmation hearing, Rand Paul grilled him. Absolutely grilled him on the topic of children being able to get access to transgender surgery. Now, you'd think that would be a bipartisan issue, right? You'd think that anyone with half a brain cell, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter, would be able to say firmly and boldly that, yes, I oppose minors, young children, being able to get access to transgender surgery. Not Rachel Levine. Not Rachel Levine. This is from back in February, but it's great audio. It's very telling. Take a listen. This is Rand Paul grilling Rachel Levine.
Dr. Levine, you have supported both allowing minors to be given hormone blockers to prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia. Like surgical mutilation, hormonal interruption of puberty can permanently alter and prevent secondary sexual characteristics. The American College of Pediatricians reports that 80 to 95% of prepubertal children with gender dysphoria will experience resolution by late adolescence if not exposed to medical intervention and social affirmation. Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Answer should be no.
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and
folks, I should start some kind of a tally counter for every single time we hear a liberal on this show not answer a very simple, direct question. We must be up to, 20 now? I've only been doing the show for a month. We're probably at least up to 20 liberals who we have played audio of, asked a very simple question, and they just don't give a direct answer. This is a problem with liberals. I think there needs to be some kind of medical diagnosis. I really do. Something's going on here.
Of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to...
Let me stop. So in other words, the question is this. Really what it comes down to is who has more authority when it comes to the well-being of children in this country, the child's parents or the government? That's really what the question is. The fact that this individual, Rachel Levine, can't even answer that is extremely telling. Is that not radical? To hold such a position? Keep listening.
Accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm alarmed at...
There's millions, well, I don't know millions, but there's at least tens of thousands of cases just like that out there, where these young children, for whatever reason, teenagers undergo sex change surgery and then grow up to regret it. Just because they had a right to do so at the time, because they had access to it. Keep listening.
Is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we believe that minors don't have full rights and that parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field.
Add one to the tally counter.
To the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one.
It is a very specific one. And he doesn't want to answer it because the answer is yes. He believes that that children should be able to get sex change surgery, mutilate their bodies without the consent of their parents, just because they have access to it. That's what he believes. That's your new Assistant Health Secretary, ladies and gentlemen. Rachel Levine. There you go. Now, another individual was confirmed. I won't spend as much time talking about her. But Kristen Clark has been nominated to lead the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice. The Democrats are reportedly planning a mid-April confirmation hearing. So she's not confirmed yet, but let's be honest, she probably will be in a few weeks. Kristen Clark has a very radical past. She attended Harvard, and you can look all this up. She attended Harvard and wrote in a paper, I believe it was 1994, she wrote about how blacks are spiritually and mentally and physically superior to whites. Word for word, that's what she wrote. That's what she argued in a paper. Is that racist? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. She also has a history of anti-Semitism. Using her position of power on campus, I can't remember what position she held, but what happened was she invited an anti-Semitic speaker to come to campus and talk. It's all online. I encourage you to look it up. Kristen Clark. Now, granted, these things happened when she was in college. 1994, you might say, well, this was 26 years, almost 27 years ago. Why are we bringing this up? Well, we're bringing it up. You know why, folks? Because the liberals, for pretty much every single Trump nominee, they dragged them through the mud. Bringing up things from their past that happened 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Now, guess what? We're going to do the same damn thing. The same damn thing. Two can play at that game, folks. Two can play at that game. Radical cabinet. Radical administration. I'll be right back. Conservatives. How many times have you been called a racist by someone on the left? What about sexist, bigoted, homophobic, xenophobic, right-wing radical extremist? These are all buzzwords that liberals use as a means of labeling conservatives as something that they're not. And let me tell you something. I, like most of you, am getting pretty damn sick of it. That's why I started my own conservative comedy series, Living with a Liberal. Hosted on the popular video sharing app TikTok, Living with a Liberal features two fictional characters, played by yours truly, whose political differences could not be more obvious. It's a comedic take on the modern-day liberal Democrat, because if they can brand us as racists and bigots, we can brand them as triggered, oversensitive snowflakes. Check out Living with a Liberal today on TikTok. Just search Jayson Veley and you'll be taken right to my homepage. I have over 100 episodes on there, so you won't be short on content anytime soon. Enjoy. Are you a pissed off liberal that wants to give me a piece of your mind? Or maybe you're a conservative that simply has a question or comment? Either way, you should know that there's a few different ways you can reach me. Feel free to send me an email at thejaysonveleyprogram@gmail.com. Or if you prefer, you can also call the show number and leave me a voicemail. 860-266-2852. Be sure to provide your name and where you're writing or calling from. Thanks a lot. I look forward to hearing from you.
Mike and Crystal.
Hey Mike, have you heard of the Jimmy Z Show?
Yeah, Crystal. The Jimmy Z Show is awesome.
Which topic do you like most?
I like them all. They are all lots of fun. Do you have a favorite?
I just like Jimmy Z. His voice is so hot.
Okay, but what about his politics?
What politics?
The politics he talks about on the Jimmy Z Show.
I never noticed any politics. All I hear is the velvety smooth dulcet tone of Jimmy Z's sizzling, sexy, scintillating voice.
Holy mackerel. The Jimmy Z Show.
The Jimmy Z Show is available on Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, and iTunes.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
That was an ad for a good friend of mine, Jimmy Z. Great conservative. I've known him for years. Actually never met him in person, unfortunately. He lives out in the socialist hellhole that is California, but he has he's been involved in radio for quite some time now. And he took a little hiatus, just like I did, but a few months ago he decided to come back to it. The Jimmy Z Show. Definitely check him out. He's a great guy, entertaining as hell, very, very fun to listen to. All right. So, folks, so far we've talked about Vanita Gupta, the Associate Attorney General, radical. We've talked about Javier Becerra, the HHS Secretary, radical. Very pro-abortion, open borders, gun control, single-payer system, all the rest. We've talked about a little bit. I brought up Kristen Clark, who's going to be leading the Civil Rights Division at the DOJ, and Rachel Levine, the Assistant Health Secretary, who won't even say that children should be able to ignore the authority of their parents and mutilate their bodies to get sex change surgery. There you go. There you go. Welcome to 2021 under Joe Biden. Isn't it incredible how far the liberals have gone? Isn't it incredible how far to the left they are moving? I mean, when you really think about it, they don't even try to hide it anymore. I remember a time when the word socialist used to be a dirty word. Now it's not. Now it's embraced. Now they come after you if you say that you don't believe in socialism. So the liberals, they are moving further and further to the left. I'll give you another example. I read this one just before I got on the air today. The mayor of Oakland has announced a program to give $500 per month to low-income families, but not if they're white. So minorities only. No whites. They're excluded. But isn't that racist? Well, Jason, you can't say that, don't you know? No, it's not racist. Don't bring that up. This is a wonderful thing. Free money. But not for whites. Reading from the Gateway Pundit. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf this week announced a privately funded universal income program that would give $500 a month to poor families unless they're white. Now, folks, the premise of a universal basic income goes against everything that America stands for, everything that America was built on. It says to hell with work ethic, to hell with capitalism, the free market system, competition. It eliminates essentially all of that and says, we're going to pay you for sitting on your ass and doing absolutely nothing. That's the basic idea behind a universal baseline income. They're becoming more radical. You can't tell me they're not. The Oakland mayor is coming under fire for her race-based program that excludes poor white families. We have designed this demonstration project to add to the body of evidence and to begin this relentless campaign to adopt a guaranteed income federally, said the Oakland mayor. AP News reports, the mayor of Oakland, California announced a privately funded program that will give low-income families of color $500 per month with no rules on how they can spend it. The Oakland Resilient Families Program has so far raised $6.75 million from private donors, including Blue Meridian Partners, a national philanthropy group. To be eligible, people must have at least one child under 18 and income at or below 50% of the area median income, which is about $59,000 per year for a family of 3. Oakland's project is significant because it is one of the largest efforts in the U.S. so far, targeting up to 600 families, and it is the first program to limit participation strictly to Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. The reason: white households in Oakland on average make about 3 times as much annually than Black households, according to the Oakland Equity Index. It's also a nod to the legacy of the Black Panther Party, the political movement that was founded in Oakland in the 1960s. Well, who cares if white people in the area generally make more than black people in the area? If you're poor, you're poor. What this ridiculous law says is that poor black families, minority families, will get $500 a month for nothing. Poor white families will not get $500. You're comparing poor to poor here. The only difference is skin color. And this idiot liberal mayor, I've never heard of her before, but she sounds like a kook, saying that I'm going to give $500 a month to black families for doing absolutely nothing. For, it's not only black, I understand it's indigenous and other minority individuals. Absurd. Absurd. No rules on how they can spend it. They don't have to do a damn thing. I don't believe that anyone in this country, regardless of skin color, should be getting free money like this. I don't believe it. I'm not even in full support of these stimulus checks that keep going out, these COVID relief checks. Look, I'll take the money, but I mean, good God. It's creating government dependency. It's creating a culture of Americans that are going to continue expecting things for free. I mean, the ramifications are potentially severe, folks. It's a step away from who we are as a country built on hard work, work ethic, ideas. You don't need an idea anymore. You don't need to work hard anymore. You could just sit on your ass and expect a check. It's sick. Now, the other point, why isn't this considered racist? Can someone explain that to me? Excluding poor white families from a $500 check every month and only giving it to minority families, how is that not racist? Well, racism only works one way, don't you know? No, it doesn't. Sorry to say, but no, it doesn't. I hate that argument that liberals use all the damn time. Racism is only when minorities are oppressed and whites are not oppressed. No, the opposite is true too. It's also when, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. So how is this not racist? And isn't this demeaning? I'm very serious. You people over in Oakland, if you're one of the 600 families that qualify for this, you're getting free money now, $500 a month for doing absolutely nothing because of this government program. Isn't this demeaning? I'm serious. If I were a minority living in Oakland getting one of these checks every month, I would be so damn pissed off because it would be demeaning to me. The message would be, from this idiot mayor, would be minorities aren't as capable as whites, which is bullcrap. But that's the message, isn't it? That's the message that they're sending. How is that not racist? So there you go. That's what's going on in America 2021. Things are getting crazy, folks. Things are getting really weird, and it's only going to get weirder. But we'll cover it all right here behind this microphone. That's it for the week, folks. I'll be back on Tuesday. God bless. God save this great nation.